Finally, the WWP has come back with episode 4. I am your host, Reef, with the man, the Sith, the legend, Darth Cyro. Cyro, how are you feeling today?
Excellent. I think you're the final boss, baby. I like that intro. That was a nice.
Man.
That was better than you did. Better than The Rock at Bad Blood. Good job.
Hey, man, I got goosebumps. You can see them hitting my goosebumps on my arm right now. That
let me zoom in.
Electrifying intro. Oh man, so we have had a whole lot happen these last few days. To recap, we've had Friday Night SmackDown out in Nashville, Tennessee. We went to Atlanta, Georgia for Bad Blood, and then we went to, help me out, I forget where Monday Night Raw was. Who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter where it was. The Rock has come back. The final boss is here. Man, it was a good shot. Did you enjoy the weekend of wrestling, man?
I loved it, and I appreciate you setting the tone because when we have the final boss come back, the best part about his comeback was his theme music hitting. Sadly, that was the high for me, and then it all.
Well, that was all it was, and then maybe the Instagram post. The Instagram post was a little fun, you know.
Sure, I was trying to count how many times he said the final boss. I think it might have went over 30. I think it was over 30 times. At one point, every other sentence had at least 3 final bosses in it. And I was like trying to. It was unbelievable. So I'm glad he's high on himself.
We'll need a counter for that. Listen, man, let's get straight into it. Let's start about we'll start with a few of the different shows and everything. We're gonna try to keep this to just the main headlines that we liked from this weekend of wrestling because a whole lot happened there. Talk to me, man. What do you want to talk about first?
You know what? I'm so happy that the Ring General had himself an amazing, resilient match where he not only did he defeat Sami Zayn, but he rendered him completely unresponsive. Please tell me once and for all, is the Ring General the greatest world heavyweight champion ever?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with all my gratitude that I present to you the greatest world heavyweight champion of all time, the Ring General, Gunther.
That's a hell of a statement. I did miss Kaiser, though.
Listen. We did miss him for the intro.
You helped fill in.
Hear me out. I said it the moment he won the title. I said it the moment he defended it against Randy Orton. I said it every second he trolled Sami Zayn, and I told Sami he didn't have it. He didn't have the chip on his shoulder. He was cocky. He thought that he could beat him again. He could just go waltz in and beat him again. And I said, it's going to require every ounce that you have of effort, of grit, of determination to put the Ring General down for a 1, 2, 3. And I knew he didn't have it in him there. Sami, I love you, but I told you you weren't ready for the World Heavyweight Championship. I knew you weren't ready. The Gunther, man, let me tell you what Gunther
showed. Did you see his drop kick?
The drop kick that was honestly, listen, forget the drop kick for a second. That was fantastic. The chop that put Sami to the mat was fantastic. The power bomb that Sami Zayn somehow kicked out at 1-4. You saw the look of shock on Gunther's face. Here's the reason why Gunther's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Most people would have saw that and they would have been like, I can't do this. But Gunther, he let the shock consume him because that was very shocking. It shocked all of us. He's rightful to be shocked there, right? But then he jetted over to him and put that man to sleep. And that's what he does. He puts people to sleep, puts them to bed, lays them to rest. He is the greatest of all time.
I am so happy to hear you say that. Let me ask you real quick on Gunther. You think that he wins against... we'll talk about this in another app, I'm sure, as we get closer to early November when we go to Crown Jewel. You think he beats Cody Rhodes and takes the Crown Jewel Championship?
Oh, absolutely. Cody Rhodes has no chance. You know who I do think has a chance? Of beating him? The man that went to Bad Blood on Saturday, Atlanta, Georgia, and beat down the entire Judgment Day en route to smoking his former brother, his family, Finn Balor. Damian Priest, the former El Campeón, who almost beat Gunther at SummerSlam had it not been for an interference at Finn Balor. So he took care of that business. And I think Damian's going to lock in. He's going to focus. I think he's next in line to face Gunther. Now, I don't know if this happens before or after Crown Jewel, so I don't know if it's going to be Cody versus Damian or what have you. But Damian is going to need to put a lot of effort into this. I think he's the one guy that I can see right now on the Raw roster that can beat Gunther. Maybe Seth Rollins, but more Damian Priest. I think Damian Priest, I have higher hopes for Damian Priest. He's proved a lot to me over the last few months since Mania.
While I love Damian and I want to agree with you on that, I can't agree with you on the whole thing because you implicated Seth Rollins. So I'll say Damian for sure with Seth Rollins. Yes, definitely they're there.
I don't think Seth Rollins is beating Gunther. I don't think Seth Rollins is beating Gunther. I'll be honest with you.
Wild. That is absolutely
and I think Damian Priest is beating Seth Rollins again. If they were to fight for a number 1 contender match, I think he beats him again.
Holy shit.
Listen, Seth Rollins' mind is somewhere else. Seth Rollins is focused on Bronson Reed right now. He has no idea about the title, so he's not looking out for that right now. But as of right now, I can confidently answer your question. And, go ahead and go in the comments and be loud and wrong in the comments if you guys would like. But Gunther is the greatest world heavyweight champion of all time already to date. The rest of this is just we just get a perk of watching him do it longer.
I love that. I love that you went there.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about Seth Rollins, right? Someone that needs to be spoken about who was interrupted by Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw went to hell and back and came out on top. Saturday at Bad Blood, they opened the show with the Hell in a Cell match. Big mistake by Triple H for booking that first. Made no sense. That should have been they honestly should have done Bad Blood 2-night event and made Hell in a Cell the whole night. All of night long.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
oh my
God. It was that far and away that much better than everything else that happened at Bad Blood. But I guess my question to you is, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre have an absolute all-out brawl, one of the bloodiest massacres we've seen in WWE history. And CM Punk comes out on top after a go-to-sleep with a chain wrapped around his knee to put Drew McIntyre to bed once and for all. Where does CM Punk go from here?
I think he told you. I think he's going home.
He's going home.
First he goes home and he has to get flowers for AJ and some treats for Larry. No, I'll tell you this. Yes, that was an amazing match. That was an unforgettable Hell in a Cell match, and I couldn't take my eyes off the screen for even a half a second. That was
couldn't.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But Punk has to first find himself now after this year-long storied rivalry with Drew. And I think he has to ask himself, okay, now that I've done that, what do I need to do or accomplish more than this? And I'm not sure what it is, but I have a strong feeling that it culminates in Punk going one-on-one with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 41. I don't know how we get there, when we get there, but I think that that's a money match, and we need to have that happen in life. I need to see that. That's going to be so fucking fun.
Yeah, dude, I mean, they hinted at it, obviously. Seth Rollins said he was going to kick his ass when he gets back. He's like, you get well soon, and I'm going to kick your ass when you get back. And so we know that there's obviously bad blood between them, no pun intended. I think CM Punk needs to shift his focus. And we talked about who we thought could beat Gunther for the World Heavyweight. But, I just don't like seeing superstars that are as talented as Drew McIntyre and CM Punk or Seth Rollins not focused on the big title, right? Because that's where they should get themselves to. And obviously, you need to work your way up. Does CM Punk have to work his way up, or should he shoot to the front of the line after a match like that?
He was World Heavyweight Champion a long time ago. And when he was World Heavyweight Champion, I was a big fan of his. He had long hair. And it would be awesome to see that title around his waist. But I don't know if we're going to get that this time around. I'm not sure. But I do agree with you as an old school diehard fan from back in the day that you want to see you want these guys to be going for the title, for the big titles.
Even if it's the Intercontinental title, like go after Jey Uso or something. I feel like CM, I get it, you're gonna take your break and everything, but when you come back, like that's where I want to see your focus at. Now you don't have any like serious feud with anybody. I get like it feels like more of a petty rivalry between Seth Rollins and CM Punk, mostly because Seth just hates when the legends come back and take spotlights. But clearly, some of these legends deserve that spotlight. Like CM Punk clearly deserves that spotlight, even though his time might be past to be like the best in the business, the face of the business.
Yep.
But he proved that even in his older age, even as his legacy continues, this is the spotlight he should have. He deserves it, and he can shine at the top of the market.
No, it's a good point, and I'll turn it over to our listeners. Please drop a comment. Tell us, what do you think happens to CM Punk? What is he going to go after now? What is he going to do next?
Maybe he retires.
I don't know if he retires. I think he just put on an amazing match.
I know, but dude, that match, like that took literally. You saw what happened to him after the match. He couldn't even walk on his own too there.
Yeah,
that's a match that you don't recover from mentally. Before you'll recover physically quicker than you'll recover mentally from that match.
So you talked about people being past their prime. What about the winner of the good old-fashioned Donnybrook match?
Wow. You know what? I'm going to be honest. I didn't know where you were going with this. I was like, are we talking about The Rock immediately or something? We're talking about Sheamus. Oh, man. Listen.
Tell me, right?
That match was like phenomenal. That was a fantastic match. It was very entertaining. I'm very, I want to say impressed. I don't want to say surprised. I'm impressed by the resilience Sheamus showed and just dude, I mean, handcuffed behind his back, hits Butch with a brogue kick with his hands handcuffed, pins him with no arm strength over him to hold his shoulders down, and still gets the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, he was zip tied.
I consider this zip tied, not handcuffed. I apologize. I consider these kind of matches, I call them legacy matches, right? Because here's the thing about Sheamus. This is just building up the legacy of Sheamus. Like all he's really doing is protecting his image moving forward. Because losing to a guy like Butch really waters down. I mean, this guy's a former world heavyweight champion. Sheamus is he's a world-class caliber wrestler. If he would have lost to a guy like Butch, that'd have been pretty embarrassing. So it was one of those matches where he had to win this match to really protect his legacy. I don't think that we're ever going to see Sheamus as a possible title contender for like the world heavyweight champion again. I don't see him being able to go toe-to-toe with guys like Gunther, Damian Priest anymore. I think we saw it. I mean, Butch put him really to the edge, to his limits. Really took him to his limits. That could be a match that like I said with same thing with CM Punk. That could be a match that retires you. You might have come out on top, but that could be a match that retires you. Like he immediately went back to the training room and was absolutely like destroyed by that match.
You know what?
I don't think that we're going to see him as a title contender.
I understand your opinion. I appreciate that opinion. I saw Sheamus beat Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds to win the World Heavyweight Championship back in 2012 at WrestleMania. And when I saw that, I remember that it was still bright out. It hadn't even become nightfall yet. And when I saw that, that was when Sheamus was like nice and beefy. And
Daniel Bryan is widely considered as the greatest wrestler of all time by a lot of wrestling fans.
And he beat him in 18 seconds, one of the fastest matches in WWE history.
Absolutely. Yep. Like I said, and it was a very high one. That's why I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he took this match and he absolutely demolished Butch at the very end of it. They had an incredibly physical and just absolutely destructive match. Awesome for them, but it's nothing more than what it was. This isn't going to catapult Sheamus to higher ranks and have him challenging for high titles. He might, like I said, maybe you go after a mid-card title like the IC title or something, but you're not getting main event PLE title matches from this. Like you are who you are. Your legacy is what it is. You protected it with this match, but you didn't enhance it. It didn't further you on that list. But again, shout out to Sheamus, man. One of the greats. Really appreciated that match. I was very. I
agree.
Match.
Definitely one of the greats.
One thing happened that didn't actually happen on the show. We're gonna move forward from this, and it didn't happen on the show. It didn't happen at the PLE, but we caught a glimpse of this through social media. It was something that I called. Technically, I get the credit for the prediction. Although it didn't go exactly as I predicted, but Kevin Owens turned on Cody Rhodes at Bad Blood. It happened officially.
Thank
Kevin
God.
Owens is an enemy of Cody Rhodes. Now, I don't know if they're going to maybe talk about this. You know how Cody likes to politician his way out of stuff. But Kevin Owens finally grew some nuts. He hardened his spine, and he went and beat the brakes out of off Cody Rhodes in front of his bus. And I just I guess my question to you, and I think we're both on the same page here, but I gotta ask this, and for everyone else listening at home, my question to you guys is: do you think Owens was justified in that course of action, like doing it where he did it and how he did it? They were jawing at each other outside backstage. Was he justified in beating down Cody Rhodes in that moment? Do you think because he teamed with Roman Reigns that was all he needed? Like, do you still favor Kevin Owens, or do you see him as a bad person for that?
I love that he did. So first of all, let me thank you. I'm going to repeat what Triple H has said via social media, because they're taking this thing pretty far. We are aware of the incident outside of the arena last night between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens.
This isn't wrestling. This is real now. Like, this is
like, what is this? The matter will be dealt with internally. Period. That's the
What
end.
do you think you meant by that?
Okay, so
do you think it's a suspension for Kevin Owens?
He put it on social media. I think Kevin Owens is fully justified in whatever he did, because I think that Cody Rhodes it's been a long time coming. I think that Cody has basically tried to play both sides. Oh, I'm your friend. Yes, we're close. We're tight. We're brothers. Blah blah blah. Oh, but by the way, I'm gonna go and befriend Roman Reigns over here. And that's my arch nemesis. So right. No, I'm glad Owens did it. I love what was the car he drove away in? That was awesome. I couldn't catch it because of the grainy video, but he was driving some cool sports car. I'm glad that Owens did what he did and beat the crap out of Cody. Do you think that Cody? So they're obviously gonna now have a real feud, unlike what we got a couple of PLEs ago.
They just suspend Kevin Owens for this. Like I said, and this wasn't on the show. This wasn't like an entertainment aspect. This was like legit. Like Kevin Owens kind of hates Cody Rhodes right now, and
I think they bring it in. I think they bring it in.
I want to answer my question. I don't think he was justified in it. However, I understand it. He's upset. I understand it, but I don't think he was justified in it. It was an attack. Like I said, you handle those things in ring. Have a match with him. Like that. That's where you handle that. I think he let his emotions get the best of him. I'm happy that we have the prize fighter back. Remember, we were asking for this turn. We wanted him to turn his back on Cody. We were sick of Cody Rhodes. So I'm happy he did it. However, I don't think he's justified, and I do think Triple H should, rightfully so, bring down the suspension.
Wow. Okay, that's your take.
Listen, we protect the superstar. When you're in the locker room, when you're not on the show, when you're away from it, this is your time to. You should somewhat be able to be in your locker room or be backstage and talk to the fans stuff and not have to worry about getting your ass beat when you also have a match. I don't know when this transpired. This transpired after their match or before.
That's a good point. I think it would have been after. That's a good question. I think it's
probably after. And even if it was after, it's cowardice because you just had Cody Rhodes go through a whole match, and that's just messed up. And if it was before, that's also messed up. Cody Rhodes has a match to prepare for. I think regardless of how you got it when it happened, Kevin Owens is wrong here. I think he's wrong here.
So you're of the opinion that we have Owens come and handle that in a ring when something's happening.
Yeah, so do it when you're expected to be fighting, because now you're taking cheap shots essentially at a friend, or even if it's a former friend, you're taking cheap shots. Be a man about it and fight him for real.
I totally understand that. It's a respectable take. I think that Owens has had enough, and I think that's why it happened. So
no, 100%. Like I said, I understand it completely. That's just emotion overflowing, and I understand that all too well. Yeah. But I just don't think that just because I understand it doesn't justify it.
So we'll see what happens there if they decide to acknowledge this in the ring and see if Cody's going to actually do something that's valuable by putting maybe he doesn't have to put his title on the line, but maybe he could settle it in some kind of a street fight or something with Owens. I think we need to get a little bit. I want to see Owens get a little bit more nasty about this, and that's just where I want to see it. I think that's where he's best.
Right.
With regard to your boy Carmelo Hayes,
Him.
I saw that he was basically going to get a U.S. title shot no matter what happens. But before the match started, where Carmelo actually went against
win the match. He had to win the
AJ
match.
Styles, it was conditioned by it was conditioned at the beginning that if he beats AJ Styles, then he gets the U.S. title shot against LA Knight. But at the end of the match, where he won due to an injury, it seemed as though that LA Knight still respected it enough to think that you're gonna get a title shot sometime. I don't know. I think it takes a little bit away from his win to me, the fact that AJ went out via injury and it wasn't a clean win. And I don't know if I'm LA Knight, if I really want to put my title against Carmelo on that. But what do you think? I mean, does Melo deserve a title shot based on that circumstance?
Let me ask you something. What was the stipulation for Melo to earn his title shot?
He has to win. I know he won.
Yes,
I get
and he won. I want you to now. Yeah, you jump in the gun. And then what was the result of the match that was going to earn him the title shot? He won the match. He gets his title match because that's what he was promised, and that's what he earned. Listen. You don't just get injured, fluky. I got injured. Oh, whatever. Yo, that's part of the sport. Sometimes people get injured. You know who didn't get injured? Melo. He didn't get injured. He stood tall and he won that match. Fair and square. He gets his title shot. Nick Aldis was playing like he didn't want to give it to him or something like, oh my God, other things to deal with. Like, no, bitch, book the match. Book the match. That's crazy that we're going to sit here and pretend that Melo didn't deserve that match there. He earned it. He won his match. He showed what he can do in the ring. I love LA Knight. You know, I'm a big fan. I think I favor LA Knight in a match against Melo, right? I think Melo would be the underdog there. And I think a pretty big underdog, if we're being completely honest. As much as I love Melo, he's never fought for a title yet. So as much as I love Melo, he's a pretty serious underdog in that match. But he still deserved it, and he gets his chance. And knowing Melo, he's a very cunning guy. He can get that title belt right off of the title, the U.S. title right off of the waist of.
You think he could beat LA Knight too?
Absolutely, I think he can. Here's the thing: I think he's a severe underdog. I wouldn't predict the win, but I'd be very pleasantly surprised to see him win. He definitely has the capability. I don't know why that sounds like a hot take. That's not a hot take at all. He's 100%.
I thought LA Knight was one of the better doing it right now.
I agree with you. Just because you are one of the better guys doesn't mean you're going to win every single match, and other things can happen. And we've seen Melo get very clever in the ring and find ways to win. Those guys that find ways to win outside of just, oh, I'm going to do my finisher and then I'm going to pin you 1, 2, 3, or I'm going to submit you. Outside of that, the guys that find ways to win outside of that typically end up with titles. They more times than not, they end up with titles. It happens.
I get it. Because he's a resourceful competitor.
Very resourceful
guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So he 100% deserves the shot. To answer the first question, 1,000,000% deserves it.
And now remember, last week I told you guys
too. And I told you guys
even further.
I told you guys last week that the move that him hitting LA Knight was going to jumpstart his ability to get it, and clearly it worked. His intentions there, he had two intentions. He wanted LA Knight to come out and distract Andrade because they have some beef there. It worked. He beats Andrade because of the distraction. And he also wanted LA Knight pissed enough to give him a title shot. And what does he do? He does it. And he gives him a stipulation where you have to beat AJ Styles. And what does he do? He beats AJ Styles. You can't run from this LA Knight. You're going to have to face him with everybody saying Melo is him.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know about that. I like that though. He should hire you as his PR guy.
Yo, that's the one, man. So, but yeah, I think Melo's gonna get a shot. Like I said, I think he's the underdog. He has a lot to prove to win it, but I think he can definitely do it. Okay. I think we introed the show with probably, arguably, the most important topic in all of WWE, the return of The Rock at Bad Blood at the end of a grueling tag team match. And what had happened was we actually had two returns. Jimmy Uso kicked the tongues. Super Bad Blood. And Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes capitalized, and they beat the Bloodline in the tag team match in the main event of Bad Blood. I guess my question to you is, a lot happened, right? Because not only did that tag team match happen, but we also had the Tongans tag team match, six-man ladder match on Friday Night SmackDown the night before, where the Tongans surprisingly won with no help from the rest of the Bloodline. Very surprising, very impressed by them for maintaining their titles. What's next for the Bloodline now?
I was hoping you were going to mention the triple threat ladder match, because
I had to, because I mean, listen, I'm as shocked as anybody else. They beat them, they won by themselves, and every time I talk about the Bloodline, I always say it: the Tongans are ass. Like those guys are just steady week after week, get their ass beat every single week, nonstop, constantly getting their ass beat. So, to my surprise, to my shock and awe, they climbed the ladder and retained their titles with no help from anyone else.
Not only did they do it, it was Tonga Loa, who I would argue is in a completely different caliber than Tama Tonga. See, Tama Tonga's great. I think he has a good presence. I think he's a little small, but he has a good presence. I love his little hyena thing that he does. I actually like Tama Tonga a lot. It was Tonga Loa though that climbed up and didn't just pull the titles down. That son of a bitch took the whole the carrier off the clip and brought it down. He
smarter because the time it would take to unbuckle a title and then unbuckle the other one, maybe someone gets up and pushes it over. So the wherewithal to grab the whole thing and bring it down. And listen, you gained a little respect for me. I gotta say.
I thought it was a great match. And then at Bad Blood, and I'm so glad that they've proven you a little bit, maybe not wrong, but maybe they've grown from it. And they're at a place now where they remind me of how the Usos were a few years ago when they were at Roman's side in the old Bloodline, right? And they were the champs, and you had all the gold with the Bloodline. Now I'm starting to feel like, okay, this is justified. These guys have earned the shit out of it. When you come to what happened at Bad Blood, man, I mean, as there was a lot of that I didn't love seeing. There was a lot of that I thought was great. Jimmy Uso coming back was absolutely fantastic.
Phenomenal. We missed him so much. The whole world missed him, dude.
They not the ones. I love that.
They not the ones.
What I think we need to start doing is we have to start addressing the bloodline. That's Solo Sikoa's bloodline, and we have to start addressing what is the Roman Reigns' OG bloodline. We have to start saying OG bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0 or whatever, because now Jimmy Uso is pledging himself to his tribal chief, and we've been saying over and over and over, Roman Reigns. Until you have a tribe, how could you be the tribal chief?
He has a tribe of one now.
Until
the wise man comes back.
And then you'll have Heyman. And then next thing you know, look, I don't want to call it from now. You asked me what's next for the Bloodline. I would love to see the Usos get back together and do it one more time.
Do you think that this is over the tag team match? Because remember we said last week, that this was kind of a tantrum for Solo. He's losing control of the Bloodline. It's clearly falling apart. So he throws a tantrum, asks for a tag team match. Do you think that this puts it to bed, or are there still because they still have tag team titles?
Well, I didn't agree with you when you said that. I think Solo, he gets in a place where he's a little desperate. He needs to cling on to power. But I didn't agree with you that he was necessarily having power removed from under him. I think that he's just, there's highs and there's lows. And it's a moment where, not everything is going fantastically. But I'll tell you what, even though he lost the match with Jacob Fatu, yes, he can go home and say, on the night before, he had his team win the tag championships.
Now, the other thing, too, is the Ulafala. Because, I don't even think Roman made an attempt to grab the Ulafala. And that's obviously, Solo said that he'll acknowledge Roman as tribal chief if he takes the Ulafala from him.
I think it has to be one-on-one. I think
And
the
would have to go. Okay,
implication
that
is
was my
has to be
question
one-on-one.
because if it's not that, so like, because it was Solo that got pinned. Am I correct? If I remember that correctly,
Yes.
it was Solo that got pinned by Roman.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the moment where I was like, "Oh shit, is this the moment then?" But then obviously, um, you know, we saw we saw Rock come out, interrupt after that. Um,
What does that
there
mean?
was
What
no
does the Rock's
acknowledgement.
interruption
Well,
mean?
that was
Can you
my
give me
question.
some?
That was gonna be my question
Like,
to you. Who do you think he's aligning with, and who do you think he's talking to when he does that little gesture across his neck? He does the 1, 2, 3, and the gesture across his neck. Is it to Cody? Is it to Roman? Or is it to Solo?
okay, so I think, and I've seen a lot online and stuff all around the web on this, but I think what he's actually saying is 3 strikes, you're out. And somebody did 3. Somebody crossed the 3 strikes.
That would
Somebody
be Solo,
struck
I
out.
would assume. I would assume Solo.
I think it's Solo.
Yeah,
So
I think it's Solo as well.
I
Because
think
if
Solo's going to
that's
go
what
on
he's saying,
vacation.
if that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I think Solo's going to go on vacation, and the final boss is going to step in as Bloodline 2.0 head, and you're going to have Roman and Jimmy, and I'm not sure who else. I can't see Roman and the final boss with each other right now.
I can't either because he aligned himself with Cody. I think that as to who Rock was mad at was because Roman aligned himself with Cody, whom they just went to war with, and he lost the title and lost family honor to at WrestleMania in April. I'm thinking Rock is fed up. Like, what the hell are you doing? And I don't like because he had that Instagram post, right, where he does his little promo. He's talking about how Final Boss doesn't like what's been going on these past few months.
Mm-hmm.
That could very well be it, right? Right there. Like, hey, Roman, you came back and you started fighting your family and aligning with the guy that beat us. What the hell is going on?
Okay.
That's where my mind is when it
3
comes
strikes.
to Rock coming out.
I like that. 3 strikes. Let's do this for the audience. Strike number 1, you lost the title. Strike number 2, you disappeared. Strike number 3, you came back and you ruptured your loyalty to the family. 1, 2, 3, you're out. I think you're out. I think you are probably on point on that. But I know it's gonna be either against Solo or against Roman at this time. I'm not sure which it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's. He's saying it's a Cody because like.
No, I don't think so.
And he could be, but I don't know what maybe like it's not a 3 strike thing. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3. You're done. Like I'm gonna pin you 1, 2, 3, and it's like foreshadowing like he's gonna set up a match with Cody. Because remember, he did say he was gonna come back for Cody Rhodes. That was something Rock definitely mentioned prior to his absence, in the Raw after Mania. So there is a possibility for any one of those 3. Me personally, I think he's talking to Roman. You say you think he's talking to Solo. For all of those listening at home, you guys let us know who you think he's talking to and what he means by that hand gesture he did. We'd love to hear some predictions and some theories from you guys. But I do want to switch gears a little here.
Okay.
We've talked about Bad Blood and we talked about a lot of the good stuff that happened. There was one thing in particular that I think we could all agree on. The best thing that happened at Bad Blood was an opener. Like I said, I think it should have been a whole night itself. The Hell in a Cell match
made the whole show.
I would argue it's up there as one of the greatest Hell in a Cells of all time. So I want to shift gears here. You've done this to me a few times in our last few shows. I'm going to hit you now with some rapid fire question segment here, where I'm going to list off some Hell in a Cells that are highly regarded as the greatest Hell in a Cells of all time. And I want you to tell me if you think CM Punk and Drew McIntyre put a better show than the other wrestlers and the other matches, okay?
Okay. So Punk McIntyre versus, and then you insert the match, and I'm going to say match. Punk Mac or the other guys.
And I'm going to start a little high octane here. I'm going to give you a tough one, okay? We're going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to go back to the No Mercy.
I'm getting nervous.
No Mercy 2002. I know you're a history nut, so I think you already know which match this is. It's Brock Lesnar versus the dead man walking, The Undertaker. No Mercy 2002. Go. Who's better? Which one was better?
Damn, that's so hard. Okay, Punk McIntyre was better. That was an amazing, authentic rivalry. I loved seeing it. I think Punk McIntyre is better. I answered it first to make sure that I get my answer out.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, I'm in agreement with you on this one. The second one, very difficult. This is before my time. Obviously, I
I'm gonna get
rewatched this
killed by
before.
every listener
This is
because of these choices.
this is an absolutely legendary match.
Okay,
It goes down in history as one of the greatest matches of all time. 1998, King of the Ring,
here we go.
Undertaker versus Mankind.
Okay, so I think that the Cody McIntyre match was better, and I'll tell you what.
Wow.
It's because that match was amazing, but only because of how crazy the spots were, and the story was unbelievable. Mankind was unbelievable. I loved it. I think I am going to be skewered by our listeners, but I think McIntyre Punk is slightly better than
you talk about the
Undertaker
spots on the
Mankind
match.
1998.
You talk about the spots in the match. McIntyre and Punk had some insane spots. That toolbox split Drew McIntyre open. Dude, that split him open. That
How
was
many
an
stitches?
insane hit. 16, I believe.
16
stitches. Brother, yeah, any more real than that? That was an insane moment. So, speaking of injury,
Punk Mac by a hair.
Hey, speaking of injuries, this match was highlighted by one of the most gruesome injuries we've ever seen. But it wasn't from that match in particular. It was from a superstar going into the match with a very gruesome looking injury. This was Hell in a Cell 2022, torn pec Cody Rhodes versus a healthy Seth freaking Rollins.
Punk Mac by a mile. That was an amazing match because they legitimately had some feud that they needed to settle, but also because it was so cool to see Cody
Rhodes. That was the coolest thing, Cody Rhodes. Listen,
yeah, I think that was peak Cody. I think that was peak Cody.
Absolutely. You know me, we're big Cody haters over here, but that was one of the most insane things I ever seen a wrestler do in my life. I'm not mad at you for putting the other one over, but I do want to show some respect to Cody for that. That's an insane moment.
But peak Cody though, for sure.
Here's one. I'm gonna be honest. These next two, that say Drew or CM here. 2005 Vengeance. Batista versus Triple H. Hell in a Cell Vengeance 05. Brother, Batista and Triple H went crazy.
I remember the stairs in this match, and I could never forget them. I was so into this match. This was like peak Triple H era, where he had the beard with the weird handlebar looking mustache thing. But he looked like he belonged on Motorhead as well as got sung out by them. But man, that was an amazing rivalry and an awesome match. I think that match was nearly perfect in terms of what it did to the feud. But I have to say that Punk Mac was just slightly better than it. Slightly better than it because
Batista became the world heavyweight champion.
Batista in that match was gold, and Triple H was unbelievable. And
he retained it.
I still think is that what happened? He retained it?
Yeah, he retained it.
Yeah. Okay. So I still think that the Punk McIntyre ended the feud in such a strong way. I go Punk Mac by a little bit, less than the
Batista,
margin.
Batista is the reason CM Punk had the idea to wrap the chain around his knee for that go to sleep. If Batista doesn't beat the brakes off of Triple H with a steel chain, that doesn't happen either. Batista walked so CM Punk could run. You're out of your mind. You're out of bounds here.
I'm okay with you feeling this way. I'm gonna get killed by our listeners. I understand.
I hope so.
I love Batista, and Triple H is my favorite wrestler of all time. So what I'll say is, he's the GOAT for me. But what I'll say is, again, it's just a little bit better. I mean, I'm sorry, Punk McIntyre did some crazy things to me. Okay, I don't know.
So we talked about Triple H's first loss in Hell in a Cell against Batista. That was the first time he ever lost to Hell in a Cell, was to Batista. Okay, this next match. Brother, if you don't say this match is the greatest match of all time, I might end this recording right here, and I might never come back to the WWP. Okay. That's how strongly I feel about this match. This match, without a shadow of a doubt, is the greatest match I ever watched in the history of my life.
No pressure.
WrestleMania 28, Triple H versus The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell Shawn Michaels, special guest referee.
Unlike the other ones, I'm going to answer this after the short blurb that I have to say. Undertaker and Triple H, for those that might not know, had 3 big Mania matches.
This was the third, right?
And they were WrestleMania 17, 27, and 28. And this was the third one. The WrestleMania 28 Hell in a Cell match was their third Mania match. And it was special guest referee Shawn Michaels. Darth Cyro, was there in attendance live in what was Sun Life.
I almost forgot.
Correct. In what was Sun Life Stadium at the time in beautiful Miami, Florida. And I think that it is the single greatest match in the history of the WWE. So unfortunately for Punk and McIntyre, that is not as good. And there are a couple on the list, not on the list. There are a couple of matches that are not on this list that I actually think were better than Punk McIntyre, but we're going to save that for another time. And I'll say, in this case, though, Taker, Triple H, Mania 28, best match of all time.
Greatest match ever. Yeah, I agree. I love that you agree with that sentiment. It's unfortunate for CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, but it's very fortunate for the future of the WWP because I would have left here and never done another podcast with you again. So I'm very glad you gave me the right answer there. Which also, while we're on the topic of that WrestleMania 27, I was talking about how that was arguably like one of the greatest matches I ever watched prior to WrestleMania 28. I had no idea they would outdo themselves at WrestleMania 28, and boy, did they ever. I think the biggest spot from WrestleMania 27 was when Undertaker went over the top rope and did a flip in the air as a 7-foot monster and somehow just landed on the floor. Triple H did not absorb the hit whatsoever. He kind of missed, Undertaker did, and slammed into the mats. I don't know if you saw that. It was absolutely wild. No holds barred match. That whole thing was insane, man. That whole thing was insane. I love the moments where he's holding him in that the Hell's Gate, the triangle lock that he was doing, and he's holding him in that, and you just see Triple H gripping the sledgehammer until he just couldn't anymore and just goes to sleep on it.
And that
was
it. Yeah.
And that's all she wrote, man. But no, definitely WrestleMania 28, greatest match of all time. And with that, we conclude episode 4 of the WWP. You guys know what to do, man. Like, comment, and subscribe. It's available on all platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and YouTube as well. And we hope to see you guys here for our next week's podcast. Cyro, any closing words?
Thanks for listening, audience members. Please tell us, what's your favorite Hell in a Cell match of all time? We would love to know. Drop us the comment. We want to interact with you more. So please do that. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening.
And remember, guys, for all things WWE, we only trust the WWP. Good night.